Hello and welcome to episode 92 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast, the podcast where we take a theme and we pick two films to fit that theme. And I'm not really sure what theme it is this week, but I was feeling happy because the sun was shining and I hadn't realised...
Feelings of summer, I thought it was. That was
it was like, yeah, feelings of summer, like summer holidays, hangouts with the friends. Like that was the kind of the theme we were going for. And you might hear a silky, inquisitive voice in the background. And obviously that is hey you guys, it's John. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think that the reason when the sun, wait, do you know what? The reason why he sounds like that is because I had to give him some bad news.
Just before we started recording.
Just before we started the pod, like basically we realised we hadn't seen each other in real life since August, which is actually horrendous. Like,
no,
we feel
like Bath Film Festival. It was after, slightly afterwards.
So that was.
But anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, but we talk like pretty much every day, and obviously we do the pod together, so it feels like we're hanging out all the time. So it never feels like we miss each other or anything. And so like when we met up on Friday, we went for a Turkish meal, which was very good. What did you think of the Turkish meal, John?
I liked the food, but it was really interesting when they started playing like EDM club music at like 8 p.m. That kind of threw me off. The vibe was very interesting.
Yeah.
But it was
the Turkish,
good.
The Turkish man, the waiter, was like obsessed with my beard, and I just took that as
I
was like, do you know what? When a Turkish man's telling me how good my beard is, like I know I'm like
you've done okay.
Yeah, I've done all right. But anyway, so yeah, we had a meat platter, which was pretty good. But then we exchanged. It wasn't gifts. Like what John gave me was gifts, my birthday gifts from January. Couple of, well, I don't know what they were, and you'll find out why in a minute. And I gave him like 9 Star Trek books or something.
You did.
Yeah, and then we had a couple of drinks. Like John joined us for a drink, and then we had a couple more because John was driving. And then I got home and I realised I didn't have the gift, so I've just had to come clean to John. I'd obviously been calling.
Basically, when I left, he obviously got absolutely rat-arsed, couldn't find where he'd left his presents, and then got home in a taxi. That's clearly what's happened.
I think I maybe had like 2 more drinks after John had left, so I wasn't even rat-arsed.
Fair enough.
Do you know what? But the weird thing was, I was obviously calling this pub, like hassling them. They ain't got them. And the sad thing is, I don't know why they haven't got them. Cause I'm quite sure I left them on top of the bar. And the worst thing is, I had to come clean because I didn't know what the presents were because I hadn't opened them. So I was like, well, I can't thank him for them because he'll be like, oh, do you like it? And I'd be like, yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, like, oh, I haven't got this one. Like,
I hadn't even thought of it, but maybe in hindsight, I just thought you were bloody rude. I don't know.
No, well, I'd rather tell you that they've been stolen from. I was like, I could make up. Like some like youths had me at like knife point and demanded my gifts off me, but then that would make me sound weak.
I thought you left it in the Uber.
Nah, I definitely didn't. No, I didn't know because it was as I got out the Uber that I realised there was no gift. So need to publicly apologise to John.
That's fine
for that.
So I'll be positive now. I realise I've gone 3 minutes of sounding quite dull, duller than usual. My monotonal voice. So. It's all fun.
What I was saying, the reason why we chose this pod was because I think when you realise there's months of like darkness and bad weather, you don't realise how depressing that is actually until
the sun comes back out.
I remember the first day of spring actually because at work we did something for spring, which was you doxed me last episode, John, so don't dox me about my work this episode. I didn't. I left it in as well.
Did you?
But yeah, like I realised I was driving. I was like, I have my sunglasses on. I was like, this is actually makes you feel so happy when the weather's like this. 14 degrees today, taps off. But anyway, John, it's been a lot of me talking. What have you been doing?
I was about to say working a lot, and I always say that, but genuinely, I had since we last did the pod, I had 2 or 3 events, 2 of which were 24-hour turnaround quick-fire edits.
Yeah.
That was really, really good, but good fun. So I've been filming all sorts of things. I did some Netball Super League for Birmingham Panthers. That was good fun. I don't normally talk about my clients, but I'm not embargoed, so I'm going to. So I did that. So that was good.
My clients?
Yeah. And
like you're going to take their teeth out.
I'm not like a dentist.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how you talk about that, yeah.
And then I did, it was the FA Cup last weekend. So I was doing score prediction content with Stuart Pearce and Dion Dublin, which was really fun through a company called Magpie Marketing.
That's so crazy that you're talking about that.
Again, that was a super quick, like, get it done. And that was in Nottingham. which Jay and I always moan about when we have to drive to Nottingham, because it's one of those places you get there, and to get across, it feels like you're trying to get across central London, because the road networks are very specific. Anyway, so just been doing that kind of stuff. I can tell I've been busy because I've not caught up on Buffy. Like, I've kind of come to a stop with where I was at. I'm midway through season 3. I've watched another episode of Severance since we last spoke. White Lotus I'm on track with. And aside from that, and aside from pod films, not much really been happening.
Okay.
I did basically do, when we last recorded, I think it was on the Wednesday night, and then after that, I basically did a week from that day of non-stop working, then had like one day off in the middle, and then back in.
Yeah.
So it's,
you had a rough time.
Weekend work is never fun, but I've had some really good opportunities to do stuff, so like you don't want to say no.
I mean, Panthers, mate, like it's really. I was quite excited about that for you.
Jamie saw me squatting on Sky Sports in the corner of a arena.
He's on Sky Sports. Yeah. This is crazy. I was saying to someone the other day, I think I'm going to lose him. You know, I'm gonna lose him. He's gonna go too big time, and then it's gonna be over. He'd be like, I'm really sorry, I can't do the pod anymore because like I'm actually shooting Christopher Nolan's new film.
It survived a child. I mean, you know, what else?
We did, yeah. We
did.
We
survived.
What
have you been up to?
I went to see a band called Bill Murray, which was great. Like I've been on the waiting list for tickets for ages. Check them out. Not the actor Bill Murray, but you spell it Bilmurri. Just really fun. Like it's called Country Core, and it's like just big choruses, like bit metal breakdowns as well. What else have we been doing? I haven't really been doing much, really. I don't think. Just trying to think. We have got a press screening this weekend.
I was about to say that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to see Warfare, which is by my favourite director, Alex Garland.
How has he smashed that out so quickly after Civil War? Is Civil War
probably shot it on the same day? Probably shot it on the same day. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I felt like that's a quick turnaround for those two. But
he did Men as well, didn't he? He did the film Men, which was like also like he's had a really quick. I mean, he's not quite as prolific as Steven.
5 on Empire, by the way, for Warfare.
Warfare. Well, wait till you hear the movies in a pod show. That's we tell the truth actually. So we'll see. That's not me saying Empire a lie, just in case they ask us for any work.
He just remembers when they gave Attack of the Clones a 5-star review on release, which they forever joke about because they're embarrassed.
Did they?
That is true. Yeah.
To be fair, I probably would have given it a 5-star review on release because I loved it so much. But I was also like 11.
I think it was one of those things where they didn't like Phantom Menace, and then the second one did feel more Star Warsy, so they were buzzing for it. And then afterwards they were like, "What have we done?" Anyway,
I say it all the time. Well, it's just one thing. I say all the time. It's Anakin, man. When he takes that second lightsaber. And then he doesn't. I realise in hindsight when I watch it now, he has it for about 5 seconds.
You always say this like it's a massive sequence. Then you watch it, it's about 20 seconds and it's done. But anyway, we are seeing Alex Garland's Warfare on Saturday. Thanks again to the Mockingbird for sending us the invite to the screen.
Get a lot of A24 films on press release. It's great.
We do get a lot of A24 films, but as we always say, A24 don't always produce the movies initially, do they? Don't they pick them up to release them after the fact?
They're a distributor for crying out loud most of the time.
Lady Bird was A24 distributed as well, and I loved that. We'll get into that later, but yeah,
you did love Lady. Well, it's a great film.
Yeah.
But anyway, shall I talk about what I've been watching?
Yes, please do.
I watched The Substance. I rewatched The Substance. Good, really good. Maybe not quite as good as the first time I seen it, but still probably, I'd say maybe like a 7.5. Like,
is that because you lost the cinema effect? Because there's like, you know. That film,
maybe the shock factor,
shock factor, and knowing what's happening, and
I do find that like I love it, but a lot of it's I know it's satire, but a lot of it's quite on the nose. Like I think it could be more subtle in terms of its messaging. Like it really, it's almost like it's babies first, like allegory kind of like movie. Do you know what I mean? Like
it's just that last 15-20 minutes for me.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people say that. I love it. Anyway, so I then watched Alien in 4K for the first time.
Okay. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a 5-star banger. Alien's one of those films that like I looked on my letterbox the other day. I've got 33 films out of about over 2,000 that I've rated 5 stars, and Alien is one of those films that is a 5-star banger. Like it's close to perfect. You know.
Genuine question.
Yeah.
Because we always like to talk about physical media. Why is it that every release of Alien is always bang out fantastic? There's never a miss. So like the Blu-ray restoration was like top of the line. Used to be shown in terms of, is it because it's Ridley Scott's eye? Is it the
I was
film
going to say,
stock
is it
used?
because it's Ridley?
I'm sure there's a few things, but they never seem to have a bad. You never get a DNR version of Alien, like a really heavy or poor transfer. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and
James Cameron, isn't it? When he gets involved, when James Cameron gets involved, sadly, there's a lot of crazy ideas in James Cameron's head that he thinks is good. And he's
Alien
by the way,
1 looks newer than Aliens. Aliens is more dated than Alien, and I don't dislike. Whenever I say this, people are like, "Oh, you hate Aliens." Like, I don't hate Aliens. Aliens was my favourite film as a kid for many, many years. But as I got older, I grew to appreciate Alien more. But what I would say is, Alien, weirdly, despite the fact it's 70s, looks less dated than Aliens does in the 80s. And I think it's the style of film.
It's amazing, man. I was saying it.
So
I was watching it. I was watching it with two people that had never seen it before. And I was just saying, like, remember, guys, like, this film was made in the 70s. Like, it's absurd. Like, late 70s, but, like, it's absurd. Like, the model work, everything. So, yeah, I mean, we all know what Alien is. It's an unbelievable, complete masterpiece.
Say no more.
We've got, I then watched Identity by James Mangold. So, like, I love a little twist, film with a twist.
Was this his one after Indiana Jones? That was the last thing you did, wasn't it?
This was 2003.
Oh, sorry,
this film
way off.
Yeah, this was so this is about strangers, and they're stranded at a motel during like a really bad storm, and they basically find themselves like the target of like a murderer. So there's a murderer, like murderer going around like killing them, and like their numbers are thinning out, that kind of thing, and they start to turn on each other as you do. It's got John Cusack in it, Ray Liotta, Amanda Peet, and Alfred Molina actually makes a little appearance. But the point of the film is that there's like you're trying to figure out who the killer is, but then there's this there is a really good twist. I say really good twist. You want to go in as blind as you can, but it's good. I'd say solid. It's a solid film.
A question for you on this. James Mangold's got a really interesting filmography as director. So, Night and Day, I famously remember being a terrible film, and it was a first date film. So, like, I've got bad memories about that film. But anyway, it is what it is. It's the one when Tom Cruise keeps drugging and knocking out Cameron Diaz for her to forget something.
You say about that. Yeah,
it's so weird. But anyway, so that was 2010. Before that, he did 3:10 to Yuma, which I think is a good film. Like, it's a good modern western. I
actually
always
haven't
enjoyed
seen that one. Yeah,
I think you like it. I haven't seen Girl Interrupted. Haven't seen Copland. The Wolverine. I don't hate it.
Copland's good. Very complicated plot, but it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so then
Logan.
No, he did the Wolverine first, which I didn't mind. The one in Japan. Like then he did Logan, which I quite liked. I think I liked it a lot more at the time, but saw it second time, wasn't as fussed.
Yeah.
Ford versus Ferrari, which I did really like, but I'm a big motorsport fan, so that's not a shock.
Yeah.
Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash one, and then obviously he's just done the one with Timothy Chalamet, who we'll talk about later, in A Complete Unknown.
A complete twat.
And before that, you're so harsh on Chalamet. Like,
no. I mean, in the film that we're going to talk about, his character.
Oh yeah. He is. But then also, really randomly, he did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I'm guessing he got on the back of the work for Logan. But that's quite a
I hate that film so much, man.
But just such an interesting kind of
very really varied.
Weird, but anyway, well, not weird, but I suppose it's not bad to have many strings to your bow. But anyway, there we go.
I also watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, 2013.
That's a good film. I've not seen that for ages.
Have you seen that? Have you?
Yeah.
I'm well surprised. Okay, so.
It's when he turns 40 and has a midlife crisis, right? Or 50?
Yeah, directed. No, he doesn't turn 40 and have a midlife crisis. He just has a bit of a crisis in his job. So he's basically a magazine photographer. It's basically like a riff on Time magazine, but it's called. Is it called Life magazine? I can't remember like specifically, but it's basically the same font, everything, and that's what it's all about. And he has these weird daydreams where like he imagines like when you imagine to do stuff like you imagine like if like throwing a drink on someone, what the consequences would be. He has all these. He imagines rescuing people and all that kind of thing. But like the cast is really good because it's Ben Stiller and Kristen Wiig, and then it's Sean Penn. Sean Penn is like basically the photographer for like he's one of the photographers for the camera. Like he owns. photographer for the magazine. He owns the magazine basically.
Adam Scott's in it as well.
Walter Mitty is the photo manager, so he gets the photos coming in and he develops them and all that kind of thing. And it's just basically about him going on this adventure. And it's so, like, I think, what did I write about it? So I gave it 4 stars. I loved it. It just kind of creeps up on you, and it's a bit bloated in the middle. And like he does like this weird exploration stuff in the middle that I actually didn't enjoy, but I would imagine I would be in the minority with that. But I think that for a film about photos, the way it's shot is really nice.
Yeah, very
apt. And it crept up on me towards the end, and I choked up at the end. Like it's a really sweet film. I
remember having some weird imagery in it. I was going to say, I'm looking back at some screen grabs now, and I've just seen the one of when he's on the skateboard. Yeah, I think I saw it at the cinema on release. It was quite a while ago now.
So I hadn't even heard of this film till a little while ago.
But everyone kind of raved about it because it was very not... I say not Ben Stiller, that's such a disservice because now he's like created Severance, and I think there's parts of Severance which are very similar in tone to parts of this film. But what I was going to say was it was quite...
You're absolutely right, yeah. It's got Adam Scott as well.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And so it's got the drama scene rather than the comedy scene, because the Ben Stiller comedies in those mid-2000s, Zoolander, etc., Starsky and Hutch, and I think this was quite a departure from that. This was like, look, I can do other things too. It's not just all about that comedy. I can do quite serious things. So
yeah,
I remember that being a big deal at the time. And also, this was when, sorry Jane, this is when I was a subscriber to Empire, so I used to be quite good at like actually going to
was that just because she's busy and she can't come on? Like
there's no diss here, but I just at that point that's what I had, and I'm just I used to go and see quite a lot of things then. So
he's a very very talented man.
Third year uni or just after?
Yeah,
third year uni I think.
Really good film though, like and really I watched it. I've got it on Blu-ray. You can pick the Blu-ray up from Kex for like
there's literally an article here. It's like Walter Mitty walked so Severance could run, and I think like if I watch Severance season 2, I will probably agree. But
it's
I'll
really
finish
good.
It, I should say.
Anyway,
cool.
I then watched the 2024 film called Azrael, which probably a lot of people wouldn't have heard of. It's directed by E.L. Katz. This is starring Samara Weaving, and it's a film that has no dialogue. It's got, I say no dialogue. It's got a very tiny, small bit of dialogue in it, and it's basically it's based in a world where no one speaks. There's a woman who's hunting down another young girl who's escaped from being imprisoned, and they've been recaptured. And basically, it's Azrael is due to be sacrificed to pacify an ancient evil. So
she loves a horror, doesn't she?
She does. She's a proper scream queen.
Ready or Not, Scream.
Yeah. Loves a scream queen. She's a scream queen. Yeah. So Samara Weaving plays Azrael, and she's basically been hunted like for a sacrifice. But no one talks. No one. It's less than 90 minutes. I thought it was quite good. I'd recommend it to horror fans because it's very gory. But I couldn't recommend it to like casual fans because they might find it a bit boring almost. Really good, like physical. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what are you moaning about? Do you know what I mean? Then I did watch a film on Mubi that I didn't log, so I'll actually just have to. Just talk about that off the cuff. It's on Mubi. It's called Bring Them Down. It's starring Barry Keoghan. It is directed by Christopher Andrews. It's basically about a rivalry between two farmers, and it just escalates. And it has this like smouldering tension throughout the whole film, suspense, and like you really don't know where it's going to go. Almost like an Uncut Gems kind of stressfulness to it all. But it's much quieter than Uncut Gems, is what I would say. Like when the actors are kind of like they're not shouting over each other, that kind of thing. So don't think of it like that. It's got Christopher Abbott in it, and it's got Cullum Meaney, who you'll know him from loads of stuff. Like he's been in Layer Cake, Law Abiding Citizen. Like he's a really famous actor, Irish actor. It's an Irish film, and basically it's just about
Chief O'Brien from Star Trek. Is that what you mean?
Oh, I don't know. Have a little look.
Gonna Google it.
His name's Cullum. Well, Colm Meaney, but you say it Cullum. Is he from Star Trek? Is he?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so it's him. So
Miles O'Brien.
Yeah. So it's. I tell you what, like it's really good. But it has you on the edge of your seat, and it's quite grim. But it's they're just there's just these two farmers that are really going at it with each other, but they're really. In fact, I'm not going to say anything about it because there's something that happens in the film that really changes the way you watch the film, and it's really clever. So what I would say is bring them down. It's on Mubi. Just go and watch it. It's again less than 90 minutes. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, it's 105 minutes. But it does something midway through the film where it really gets you like thinking, and you're like, oh, okay. So I would check that out, but it is grim. Like it's brutal. So yeah, just be careful of that. I also watch Dumb and Dumber. Everyone knows what Dumb and Dumber is. It's so funny. Like, have you seen it, John?
Many years ago. Isn't it like 96, the first one?
Probably. I mean, there is only one really in my eyes.
There's more though, isn't there? Right?
No,
Like
there is. Yeah, Dumb and Dumber 2 and Dumb and Dumberer. Like, yeah. But anyway, Dumb and Dumber.
The first one, I was wrong.
Oh, it's just so funny, man. Like, and right at the beginning, there's certain jokes that I didn't get when I was a kid when I watched it. Like, and obviously you would get it, but like, the limo pulls up and like the window comes down. It's Jim Carrey, and he's like, "Oh, blah blah blah." He's like, "Where are you from?" And this woman's like, "Austria." And he's like, "Good day, mate. Put another shrimp on the barbie." It's just well funny, man. And like back when I was a kid, I didn't really get that. Like, but obviously it's Australia. Yeah.
Apparently, he's really funny in Sonic 3. Like, apparently he's
funny
really
in the first two. He's in the first two.
I've not seen any of them, but yeah, I know. But apparently, Sonic 3, there's a sequence apparently where there's like two of him, and apparently it's just really funny. It's like him playing a great granddad and a great grandson at the same time.
Yeah,
but
he's really funny in general, to be honest. Like, I think he's hilarious.
I thought he was done. Like, as in, he made enough money and he was kind of done with Hollywood, wasn't he? And he seems to have come back.
He has also said that he's got lots to pay for. So that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And the TV I've been watching, I've just been cracking on with Buffy. Finished Adolescence. Oh, yeah. I guess before we go into the pod, should we have a quick chat about Adolescence?
Yeah, so Adolescence has taken
the world by storm.
But definitely in the UK, it's a big thing. It's started political change, and essentially it's a one-take drama. It's 4 episodes, and each episode focuses on a family. Their son is accused of murdering a teenage girl. He's 13 himself, and it's watching these events play out. And instead of trying to be a whodunit, this is a focus on how a family who's associated with a crime, how they deal with it and what happens. But the decision was from the director to shoot this all as one continuous take. There is some hidden CG in there to remove some shadows from from the camera crew and things like that, but essentially it is one single take, and they've even released what take they use for which episode. So like the first few it was like take 1 or 2 or something, take 2 or something. And then later episodes, it was, some of them were like 12 plus, and like it's crazy. But it's almost like this massive. It's almost more like a theatrical theatre stage production with the levels of complexity of making it all run. It gives me a headache. And just imagining, if one person messes up and just having to go again, it must just be absolutely killer. But the teenage boy who's the lead in it is absolutely fantastic. He's now on a film with Margot Robbie, so he's on the way up. But just the intensity of it. We talked about Uncut Gems earlier. This is a similar vibe in terms of just like the not cutting away makes it very stressful throughout. But it also deals with a lot of themes at the moment about incel culture, about how parents reading phone messages might interpret them one way, but actually what they mean, like the hidden meaning of emojis.
I mean, I didn't know what those emojis meant.
No,
I was like, oh, what?
And
like a grenade, what is it? Dynamite, red pill.
And there's a big chat at the moment about, like, in the UK, about monitoring what your kids are consuming in terms of mobile content and what's shaping them. It also like completely name checks Andrew Tate, which is interesting, and he's responded to that, and
as it should. Has he responded to it?
He has. His reply was basically didn't deny that. It censures on like the idea of the 80-20 rule, like.
I didn't even know about this either.
I didn't want to promote this, but anyway, there's a central thing about a worldview he shares, which is basically to be dominant, you need to be within the 20% of males and like have a certain attitude. But he basically says that it's been misinterpreted, of course it has, and actually he's telling people to aim to be more successful, not to hate on women. However, a lot of the rhetoric around it is alleged to be hateful against women. But
well, you know what? At least,
look.
at the very least, he's acknowledged it for the first time. Like,
it's an absolute minefield, which I don't really want to go into. But watch the show,
of course not.
And just
One question.
It's terrifying.
One question. Has it changed? Obviously, with a child now, has it changed your view on like your ideas of what you're gonna do when like as a dad, like when you're older or when your kids are older or anything?
No, I already had a path of what I want to do with it, and I'm gonna hopefully stick with it. But what I would say is,
called being Amish. You're gonna know what a mobile phone is.
Doesn't seem a bad option these days. But what I was gonna say was, it's just like anything you prep for now. You know, by the time it's going to be out of date in 10 years. So that's kind of my other thing with it.
Should have the Google glasses on.
That's what I mean. Like these glasses, but with like full VR, and we won't be living in reality. And that is a thing now, by the way. Sorry, this is off topic, but have you seen like there's people who are buying stuff in the metaverse where they live in a massive house, but it scans their house, so when they walk around, it can make them feel like they're in a huge mansion, even if they're in like a tiny. It's proper dystopian. Ready Player One vibes, and I'm just like, oh my god. But anyway, it's utterly fantastic. I'm taking it you enjoyed it also.
Oh yeah, Stephen Graham's like national treasure in it at this point. He's everything he
intense
touches.
Intense guy in a good way.
Really
in
intense,
his acting.
Yeah.
He's always got a lot going on. Poor guy.
There's some performances in there that are amazing. Like the young lad, like that was his first ever acting role, which is I just find mind blowing really. And I think the way it was depicted was quite. It's funny because the way it was depicted was quite. Accurate and honest, but at the same time, like I'm seeing like all sorts of rhetoric on the internet of like why it's doing things in certain ways, and it's like villainize. I thought it done quite well at not really villainizing the young lad. Really, it was more just about like what he'd been exposed to and stuff like that.
Do you know what the best thing is about this is? It's caused the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's done what it should do. Unfortunately, some of the conversations, like the lead writer directors, had loads of stuff thrown at him saying he's changed the race of the lead. That was what character, and it's based on a different story. All this stuff, and it's just like, look,
it's not. But if you're thinking about the race, of
you've missed the message of the entire bloody thing anyway, which is about. It's about people being radicalised by content they consume online, which is a genuine issue, right? That's what they're raising. It doesn't matter what race you are. Like, any person can consume content online which can lead them down a merry path. I mean, certain platforms these days I don't like to go on because they are very down a certain path. We won't go into it, but you know, it's not great. So you can completely understand what this show is trying to raise, and it's an important conversation, and more power to it for doing it. No, it's not perfect because it's a TV show, and by the way, it shouldn't be the responsibility of 40 minutes of TV to do this. However, it's what it's taken to even have this conversation. So we are where we are.
Do you know what is perfect, John?
Goonies.
Richard Donner's Goonies from 1985.
They call themselves the Goonies. They've stumbled onto a legend, but they're not alone.
Chunk, I hope that was your stomach.
No. That's the it. Sounds like Kong.
God, that was a swing from one deeply dark topic to like how kids should behave.
I think Goonies. We had to. How kids should behave. I don't think so, mate.
But I say that they like run off for like mass periods of time, and God, it's really interesting watching. So first things first, this was a first time watch for me. Can't believe it's one of those shows that's on. One of those films that's been on TV many, many times. It was a Channel 5 classic in terms of it was re-shown on like a Sunday many a time. So I have seen lots of parts of it before, but this was the first time I actually watched it start to finish.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. Don't worry, Jamie, your film
myself.
is safe. But what was interesting to me is it is a kids' film, but it's kind of not. Like, it's got swearing in it. There's genuine. The first scene of the film is someone looking like they're hung in a prison.
Yeah,
like it's interesting. Like, they were saying it's the kids' film that adults like to watch with their kids because it works on multiple levels, like all the best films do, such as Toy Story, etc. But actually, it's firmly in the 12A camp in this day and age. Like, there's some swearing in there, lower grade swearing, but like there's some slapstick to the kind of to the danger. However, there are points where like kids are getting strangled or like tied up, or
I think that like
there's an intensity.
I would call
to
it mild peril.
I don't know.
So
it feels,
when I was
it
so
feels not as mild as something like the Power Rangers movie of '94 or stuff
yeah,
like
of course,
that. Or
like I mean, but that is like completely like childish. I think when I watched this,
it's more like Stranger Things. Let's be honest, which is what
of course, that's what it's based on.
Completely influenced on and E.T. and all the rest of it. But
yeah, when I watched this for the 50th time, but for the first time in probably the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years, maybe about 5 years, probably. I did think that actually this is just a fantastic kids adventure. And the peril is like it's always there, but it's not quite there. Like there's a gun, and they're never really going to.
But it's kind of shot around them rather. Than
I never really felt that the Fratellis were going to kill them, because they were like the Fratellis were like, I don't know, they're quite sinister, but not that sinister. Like she kicks them out after she's given them the
right. We're doing the thing where we're going all over the shop.
But anyway,
synopsis. Then we'll go in.
Oh, the synopsis. Right, so The Goonies, it's directed by Richard Donner. Also did Superman. Ooh, Spider-Man. Oh, that's one for the blooper reel. So also did Superman. Love the fact that it's written by Steven Spielberg and Christopher Columbus, like the masters of child kind of like stories and having good films with kids in them. And this is a film just about a teenager, Mikey Walsh, who is played by Sean Astin, really cute kid, by the way. And they basically, their house is being repossessed by these like real estaters who are wanting to build a country club. The film was based in Oregon, so you've got like all that like the big like mountain scenery. Vicky's actually been there, like she's been to the house.
Isn't it supposed to be next to the sea as well, right? Oregon?
Yeah, you're not allowed. Yeah, you're not allowed you're not allowed within a certain like meter of it. But yeah, so they're basically like trying to save their homes from demolition, and there's this group of friends called the Goonies, and obviously I'll talk about why I love the intro in a minute, but and they basically like they're hanging out and they're just trying to not they're kind of pretending that this isn't going to happen, you know, and they go up to the attic and they find an old treasure map drawn by One-Eyed Willie, and you've got Corey Feldman in there playing a character called Mouth, who can apparently read Spanish, which is just hilarious. You've got Martha Plimpton, actually, who's like probably one of the ones on here that's gone on to do the most work, really. And then you've obviously got Mikey's big brother, played by Josh Brolin, and you've
got that was Josh Brolin, by the way.
Yeah,
did not
crazy,
know that.
Yeah, it's just like that's mad.
And you've got Jeff Cohen, who's actually a pure hunk nowadays. But yeah, Chunk. But yeah, it's just a film about kind of friendship, and it really reminds me of like just happy times and gives me nostalgia, and that's kind of the reason why I chose it was because I was really wanting a film to like invoke that, because I'd felt like that when it sounds really weird, doesn't it? I guess as a 36-year-old man driving around for work, when the sun came out, I just was like, oh, I'm happy. I was like, and it just reminded me of this. So I was like, let's do a pod on summer and friendship and hanging out with your friends and good memories.
I wanted this to be the second film because I wanted to talk more about the other film, but it's fine.
Well,
but the Goonies, I understand why.
When Lady Bird is iconic as the Goonies, and it is iconic, by the way, Lady Bird. We will split this up and we will talk about Lady Bird plenty as well. But we're not. We did say at the beginning of the pod, like we've been running really long lately, so we are going to try and keep these down to an hour 45.
Try and keep on target. He says when we do a 30-minute intro.
I know. Also, let us know though if you like the long pods, let us know. But if you prefer like a tighter 90 minutes, then let us know. So yeah, so we've got the boys. They found the map, and they're going to go on it's a treasure hunt, isn't it, John? It's a treasure hunt.
It's a treasure hunt, and it's very much, you can tell the Spielbergian influence, because basically it's like an Indiana Jones story, but in modern day, and going down and finding something underneath. And also, like, Christopher Columbus was involved with this. I know he didn't write the Harry Potter films, but you can tell there's he directed the Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. But the similar, what I was going to say was the similar thing with like the chambers and what, this is long before Harry Potter, but like similar kind of like the Discovery and the kids. What's interesting to me with this is they struck gold with kind of the cast they got of kids, because it's always dodgy, isn't it? With when you've got a largely film based with a largely kid based cast, how will they perform together? Will they be annoying, etc.? Now, it's interesting that the original criticism of this film from Roger Ebert and his partner was about the fact that they didn't like the fact that kids spoke over each other so much. But for me, that made it feel real.
Yeah, of
A
course.
lot of the kids like kind of shouting over each other, but
That's fantastic. Yeah.
they're not just stereotypes. They seem to have a bit more going on. Like Mikey, played by Sean Astin, seems to have like a legitimate kind of arc in terms of like initially it's like he needs to be sheltered, don't let him go outside, he needs his inhaler, he can't do this, he can't do that, and he's kind of being mollycoddled, while his brother is the complete opposite to him. He's also much older, but seems like more like he could be a jock, do you know what I mean, in the 80s kind of stereotype.
Well, all he's doing is he's just doing weights and stuff
working
like that,
out or whatever,
watching Cyndi Lauper videos.
yeah, and it kind of implies, he looks up to his brother, but they don't get on. Like, there's that tension. And then by the end of the film, like, Mikey's the one pushing his brother to go into these situations because, like, he's found his calling, or like, found his the coming of age classic. Like, he's. And then Chunk starts as the guy who's basically the guy who serially lies, Billy Liar, and then just trying to bait, or Boy Who Cried Wolf, whatever you want to say, and then basically out the film. He gets some of the best sequences for me.
It's fantastic.
Particular highlight being when he's captured by. So when they're looking for this treasure, they run inadvertently into the opening of the film. You can't tell it's a kids' film at the start because the opening chase sequence is basically just like a normal car chase in like a Lethal Weapon film. Richard Donner as well, and basically during this, Chunk sees this all happen, but he tells the Goonies, but they just all ignore him because he talks so much nonsense normally that they're just like, yeah, like the time Michael Jackson came to use the toilet in your house. It's like, she didn't come. So yeah, he didn't come. But his sister
That was his
did.
sister.
And it's like,
It's so funny, yeah.
But he just, like, he's got good one-liners. And I've also seen a brilliant clip of Jeff Cohen on Parkinson back in the day, or Terry Wogan, one of the two. And
I think I've seen this.
He's just as funny on that. Like, he's brilliant. Really talented kid. Like, really just works the room. Like, fantastic. And then you've got Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
And I watched a recent interview with Corey Feldman. I say recent. It's the, Drew Barrymore has the show. And so from 2 years ago, he did an interview saying that he'd been out of trouble for 18 years, and I'm not sure if that's still the case. I hope that's true, but he did talk about with Drew, and it was really sad about how their lives were basically completely messed up from being child stars, how they were treated, and they don't fully delve into it, but I feel like there's a lot of abuse of power that's gone around them, and they said, like, their calling was to make sure that their children have a much better and easier ride than they did. But yeah, it's Corey Feldman's so funny, and like I've seen this that he's in. I've seen The Lost Boys, and there's one other picture I've got the name of, Stand By Me, and I just think he was such a talent, and it's a real shame that like Ed Norton
You've
around
seen
not too
Gremlins?
dissimilar. No, and like Ed Norton around a similar period. Just kind of what can happen when the wrong people get involved, and all the allures of Hollywood, and
Well, you see it a lot with a lot of child stars. Well, obviously,
especially
you've
that
got
era.
Macaulay Culkin as well.
I think it was the Wild West back in that era. I think.
Well, you can
now,
see, by the way, Richard Donner directs them, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yes.
But
anyway.
the one thing I really love about the opening actually is how it shows all their little quirks of each character with small clips as this chase is going on. You go past each character and it shows Andy, who is a cheerleader. It shows Data, played by Ki Hu Kwan, who's obviously we know from like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think he's in Loki, Temple of Doom. But he's obviously he's also like an Oscar winner now, which is crazy. So it shows him and his gadgets, and he's like got this little gadget going like with this dustbin. It shows you Chunk, who's in the burger joint with his he's squashing his burger against the window.
Gets overexcited when it all kicks off.
Exactly, and I think it's a really clever way, and doesn't necessarily beat you over the head, of just introducing to these characters dead quick. And then obviously we all see them in the house together afterwards.
So it's interesting you say that, because a complaint was it takes too long for them to get on the adventure, because the film is quite long. It's about 2 hours 10 or just under.
2 hours, just under 2 hours.
Excuse me, and Siskel and Ebert complained at the time about the fact, I keep referencing Siskel and Ebert because they were like the main kind of reviewers on TV in the States at the time, so they're usually a good point of reference. And if you ever watch a retrospective review with Ollie Harper, like he always ends up referencing them, and I must say I watched that today. but he talked about the fact that actually it takes them quite a long time to get on this adventure, and I wouldn't disagree. But for me, it's you're getting in with the characters and you get to know the groups. By the time you go on the adventure, you're really emotionally invested, rather than learning about them on once they've started the adventure, if that makes sense. But what's interesting is, you're right, the opening sequence actually sets it up quite well. So then you do get this 20-minute buffer before they go off. But it doesn't bother me. The only thing I would say is, and you have to remove logic with any of these things, like the actual, when they start getting into the setups of like what they've got to do to get to the next step. So like the restaurant stuff is fine, like realistic enough. Once they get into like you've got to play a skeleton, which is also an organ and whatever else, like it seems completely mental. But I think you've just got to go with it. And also, I think it's kind of got a mystical vibe to it too.
It's a treasure hunt, you know.
It doesn't overtly talk about mystical elements, but they've definitely got to be going on for what's happening, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I would completely.
That's just me watching it. Or, by the way, as a 32-year-old man, having not really seen it as a child, and the bit I do remember having watched on TV as a kid was the pirate ship. That was my big memory of it. Was there was a big pirate ship, which you didn't really see lots of until like Pirates of the Caribbean. Do you know what I mean? Like pirate ships on film, like in my mind, you didn't see them that often.
No, like Sinbad and that kind of stuff.
Maybe I wasn't looking enough. But
Hook, Sinbad, they're the only ones I can think of off the top.
Anyway,
great pirate ship. Yeah, I mean, I think the opening, I think it's absolutely necessary. It shows it's got a lot of like foreshadowing as well, with Rosalita.
A lot more than I thought with Rosalita, and also one of my favourite sequences is Corey Feldman just saying he can speak Spanish, and he's just like translating
top,
like horrendous things
cocaine at the top, speed in the middle, heroin at the bottom. Yeah, but it's just the fact that when she comes in, they're like, and this is Rosalita, and she speaks Spanish, by the way, and the boys are like, ole, hola, like it's just really funny, like, and it's just all that kind of stuff, and they're like calling each other turds, and just that like. The patter between all of them is I think genuinely fantastic.
What was the film we watched? That was the horror one with Dracula in it, and they're all in the, what was that called?
Monster Squad.
Yeah, similar vibe to that as well.
I don't know who. What is it? You bitch! Like it's so out of pocket that.
But like Monster Squad had that similar kind of like friendship. It's just a very 80s thing, and probably more relevant. It's probably a lot of the films had that at the time because there was less computers and other stuff to do. So I feel like people did hang out more, and like, more people had to go around on their bikes and all those things. So,
it would have been very fun, wouldn't it? It would have been fun being a child on a set back then, with a real pirate ship going down not a log flume, but going down like actual like
essentially.
And now it's pretty much all CGI, isn't it? So imagine what it was like back then. But I think that the great thing is that all of these characters, they've all got like their own like roles and their own personalities, and nothing's kind of wasted. Like they're all very relevant, and it's great that obviously we find they go to the restaurant, and we kind of meet the Fratellis who have just escaped like prison. And we kind of meet Sloth for the first time as well. One of the funniest, like, there's loads of like, and obviously, as we always say, this was the 80s, so there are like jokes in there that maybe wouldn't be so good, wouldn't fly today. But even still, I'll still laugh all the way through, like regardless of what that is. But it's just the Fratellis, like, and you've got the mother of the Fratellis, who she's played by Anne Ramsey, yeah, Mama Fratelli, like she's fantastic. Like she just is like so mean, like reminds you of like a Miss Trunchbull type, like dinner lady kind of like vibes. Like no offense to any dinner ladies out there, but it just gives you like that, like those vibes. And when we meet Sloth as well, like the makeup for Sloth is incredible, because you've got
4 hours or something they were saying to get him in that.
It's brilliant because the eyes move independently of their own, and so do the ears. And it's just so outrageous.
John Matusak, is that right?
Yeah,
he was a former NFL player or something at the time. Yeah. Like apparently he was just a giant. But they were saying it was a nightmare when they were filming the sequence on the ship. They'd say, right, kids, don't splash him, because if the water gets on it, it ruins the makeup. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, we won't. Anyway, he said as soon as they get in the water, they were so excited, they were just splashing everywhere, and it covered the guy. And they said he was the most patient man in the world, because he had to go back in makeup to have it all removed and re-put on again and do another take, and he never said a word. And they were
That's
like,
crazy, isn't it?
That's patience with children.
Well,
Yeah.
so I
wouldn't be that
sent John a
patient.
video of like behind the scenes for this, and Richard Donner, like he's so
Direct.
jovial about it. He's like, I love these kids. He's like, however, like super annoying. Like, and you see like loads of scenes where he's directing them. And I guess, well, if only George Lucas had watched this before Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, because this is pod racing. He's like very direct with the kids, like, and almost like they love him as well. They're like, he's high fiving them still, but he's very much like, well, you who's not on the spot? Who's not on the spot where they're supposed to be? And that kind of stuff is like, right, I need you to go over there. Like, can you do that? Like, you're gonna do that? He's like, what have you got to do? Like, and he's quite like direct with them. They're all like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And he's like, he's like very challenging to them. And like, and I felt like that was, again, like, I wonder what that would be like today with a director. Like, if they'd be allowed to be like, or they'd have to,
set, probably,
you know, like soft parenting and all that kind of shit. Like,
I don't know on a film set, because time is money. I think
Yeah.
basically they're told you have to get in line with it.
Yeah,
I think sets are still pretty brutal. But the truth is, if you made Goonies today, it would be basically you'd do a bit of location. Because you know that house, they said they actually filmed majority of stuff in that house, and underneath was actually filmed there, like for real, right? So that now they didn't build it on a soundstage or make a set of it. Now it would either be on a soundstage or a set. Although realistically, probably a lot of it would be CG.
well, it's funny that you say. It is funny that you say like about films like that back in the day, because Movie Scenes and Shit writes in and says, I'm sure you'll cover this, but I gotta ask, and in capital letters, why don't they make kids films like The Goonies anymore?
No, I've got to. Do you know what? I'm going to caveat this. I think there are some films like it.
Yeah.
So I would argue the most recent two Ghostbuster films are that kind of style, and they picked up on the Stranger Things vibe. In terms of, well, they got one of the lead actors from it, Wolf, but more so the fact of it did the legacy sequel thing where you still keep all the original characters and what have you, but basically they have a new adventure and they get to use the iconic imagery of the car and the packs and whatever, but they don't, you know. And I feel like those films, they're also 12A, aren't they? They've got a bit of an edge to them. And there was a modern Goosebumps film which was kind of like more of a 12 than a PG. So I think they exist. But what I'm trying to say
they're not
is
as good.
no, they're not. But what I think there's a
And I think they're fewer and far between.
They're few and further between for sure. But what the main thing is this has kind of a hard. We talked about it at the start. It has a harder edge to it, and I don't think you get as much swearing through on a 12 now. Anyway, I think there'd be more question marks about that. I think also the things that a kid wants to watch now is different. They want the IP, like they want to watch Captain America. They want to watch, or they did. I mean, who knows now? It's dwindling, but you know, superheroes has been such a thing. And they are aimed at that audience, like, but a lot of people are going to be upset at me about that. But a lot of those Marvel films are aimed at hitting the age range that would have been for Goonies. Because Goonies really is probably between, let's say, 10 to 15. But you could watch it younger, but like it's
36.
No, but first, you know, initially. So what films are out for that age range now? They are action films, which this has action in it. They have adventure in them. But it's just changed. But what the thing we like about this and why they don't feel the same, and it's exactly what we said with Terminator 2, it's tangibility. Everything you are looking at, bar the ship you know is fake at the end, is basically something that is really there. And even if it's not really there, it's a model that was really built and put in. So there's the love of the craft of the film itself that even if you don't have any interest in filmmaking, you know something about it feels real just because of how it's done, right? Yeah. And then you've got the kind of how the kids interact. I'd say, well, we do have that. We've had Stranger Things, and again, I'd argue the modern Ghostbusters films. Sorry, Ghostbusters, yeah. And then, really randomly, Goosebumps did a film where they had like a small ragtag people.
That was
with
all
David
right.
Schwimmer leading
I've watched that. I've seen that.
Sorry, it's a Jack Black one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, anyway, but my point is, there are films like that, and I bet if they watch those at the age you were when you watched this, they would think about those the same way.
I don't think so.
Because I think they would, because when they're older, there is a tinge of nostalgia to it as well.
You think there's going to be... Yeah, but there's not... I think that The Goonies has, like, an absolute cult status, like... And
It does. I'm not saying every film will have that cult status. What I'm saying is, I think audience expectations of what those films are different now. I don't know if you release the Goonies next week to a group of kids if they go for it. But then again, someone would argue, well, yeah, they would, because they went for Stranger Things, which is basically this plus E.T. plus
Goosebumps. So Goosebumps is sitting at a 2.8 on Letterboxd.
By the way, I'm not saying
and
there is
no,
good
I'm
as
just
Goonies,
saying.
I'm giving reference to like, okay,
Yeah.
devil's advocate, what films exist for that age range, and what are they?
So the only films I would...
quality conversation is different, isn't it? That's like a.
There's a few films that I'd thought of, like, but they're few and far between. There's a few films that I thought of, but I would say that they're much different. So, you've got like Kings of Summer is a pretty good like summer hangout film, but it doesn't have the. Will those characters grow up to all be stars? Not really. You've then got.
Is that the Jonah Hill one?
No, that's mid-90s. Which
sorry.
Then there's another one called Summer of '84, which is that's really got those vibes, but it's a horror film. And so I would say that actually
it's different audience, isn't it?
But what we get nowadays with those films with kids like that, they tend to have a harder edge, because I think a lot of films nowadays in general has a harder edge. It is a really good example of that. But again, that's because Stephen King often wrote about a group of kids. Like that's his shtick, like some of the time. But I'm reading a book. In fact, movie scenes and shit. I'm reading a book at the moment called Blackmouth, which gives Goonies vibes, but is a horror book, which I would recommend you read, because I know that you do read. But I would just say that everything nowadays, compared to back in the 80s, has to have a harder edge for people to be a bit more engaged. Like Stranger Things does. It's a very, very watered down version of the Goonies and Lost Boys and all of those.
Hold on. When you say watered down, in what respect? Because say
what I mean by watered down,
I think the threat is higher in
higher.
those.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Right. When I say watered down, I mean there's 4 seasons of like a lot of nothing going on, if that makes sense. There's a lot of like, and
people like hanging around with those5kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, I don't. Kids now, but
and I love. It's weird. It's really weird because everything about Stranger Things, I should love it. I should be obsessed with it. Because it's like E.T., it's the Goonies, it's all of those things that I am obsessed with. But I'm like, well, actually, a lot of these characters like are quite annoying. Like I find them pretty annoying. Maybe that's because I'm older now, but I don't find any of the Goonies annoying. None of them are annoying.
But you don't find the Goonies annoying because when you say I've watched for the first time today, and I'd say some of them when they do overtalk. Do you know what? Roger Ebert's like me. He's watching it as an older man. He's watching. He's like, those kids are talking over each other. It's annoying, and it's like I understand that. But what I was going to say was
a good impression of Roger Ebert.
It's really not. But if you watched it for the first time now, and you'd never seen it before, I don't know if you would have the same feeling towards it. But also,
I think the writing's better.
You are. Well, it's different, isn't it? Because it's a 2-hour film rather than episodic TV. Well, not episodic TV,
13
but like
episodes.
The series.
Yeah.
But look, let's not get into that. It's just an interesting conversation about what exists for that audience. What is it? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs exists for them, but no one's seen that. But yeah,
no one is seeing that. No, I won't be seeing it either. But yeah, that's hilarious.
Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
It's hilarious. Anyway, yeah, that's like pure shade. That was like for no, it came out of nowhere.
I felt so salted. I didn't even mean it to sound like salty. But anyway, go on.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that this it's one of those films that I always talk about, that where the stars align and you've got look at the
casting,
people working on it,
music, director, writer, producer.
Look at the people working on it.
Bang.
You've got Steven Spielberg and Richard Donner both working on it. Now,
Christopher
a few things
Columbus as well. I mean, he was about to go
crazy,
into Home Alone and Harry
a couple of things I'd like to
mention.
is that some really cool things. So the one sloth, when he rips off the shirt and he's got the Superman shirt underneath, never realised that as a kid, so never acknowledged the fact that
they play the music as well.
Never acknowledged the fact that another one was where the dead body in the fridge, which obviously a mild peril, John. The dead body in the fridge looks like Jeff Goldblum, and when it does look like Jeff Goldblum. When it comes out, they're playing the Psycho, like a riff on the Psycho music. However, when you've got Chunk eating the ice cream and they're ripping the ice cream off him, it's just everything about it is just really funny. And
go on.
The pirate ship was built in secret and the kids were not allowed to know about what it. They knew there was a pirate ship, but they weren't allowed to know what it looks like. So when they go down that log flume and see the pirate ship, like they turn around and they see the pirate ship, that is them reacting to it for the first time, which I thought was really, really cool. And just overall, yeah, it's for me. Is it marked as 5-star on my letterbox? I know it's not a 5-star film, but
no, it's fine.
It's bloody close.
Can we talk about the sequence where? So one of my favourite sequences. So early on in the film, they go through to the restaurant, and obviously the family are there with the mum and those two, and Chunks gets separated from the gang, and well, he gets let off to go and tell the police, and then he runs up and he's like, I'm ready to tell you their whereabouts, where they are, like, what they've been up to.
Right, I wrote this down.
Yeah, and then the family, like, he's running away from, the car he's just told, and he gets that face. But anyway, my favourite sequence is when he's back, they're like, we want to know everything. He's like, everything? Tell us everything you know. And he basically has, like, a 5-minute monologue which cuts in and out to what the kids are doing about everything he's done wrong from, like, the first grade or whatever it is to, like, now. And it's, like, from really mundane, stupid things to, like, quite serious stuff. But it's just really funny. And, like, he just delivers. I just think he's just a really funny kid. He ends up having a law firm, apparently, that guy.
Oh, really? Chunk?
Yeah.
Well, the bit where he goes up to the car, there's a couple of like scenes where like that has me in stitches.
Thought we talked about favourite scenes, by the way, because you know.
Yeah, one of them is where Mouth sticking his tongue through the painting. Like I just find that hilarious. But then one of the other ones is around that scene when Chunk runs up to the car and he's like, yeah, I can tell you where they are, and then all of a sudden it flicks, like the window comes down. He puts
the window down on the electric window, and then
it's like, Robert Davey. Oh. It's Robert Davey, Jake Fratelli, and he's like, and he's like singing like in Italian, like, and it's the kid, like Chunk's like, man,
he's got a good scream queen.
He has, like, it really gets me every time. And even, like, him and Sloth sharing the baby Ruth is, like...
Yeah.
It's just, like...
You're more hungry than I am.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause he breaks through the chains.
God, you're more hungry than I am. Like, yeah, it's just little lines like that. Like, when Mama Fratelli, like, hands them all the dirty water in the glasses, like they've asked for a glass of water and it's brown in the glasses. Like, oh, thank you, sir. I mean, ma'am. Like just all those little
quick,
like childish.
It's quick.
It's really, really quick. Like, and I just think that with those kids together, like, it's the delivery of all the lines. Like, Data's just. He's fantastic in this, like, as well. Like, he's just really, really funny. His line delivery, and I think because his English wasn't perfect either, like that elevates it even higher. Like, and there's not one joke made about the fact that he like has his English isn't great, but the line delivery, it works for all the lines that he's given.
And his dad says at the end, "My greatest invention was you," and because I'm a dad now, I get sad at things like that in a nice way. So
you're right. Yeah, obviously we all know they say they find some gems, blah blah blah. Like, but at the end when they're all having those little moments, I think those things like choke me up now, and I don't know.
It's definitely an age thing, but I'm
isn't it?
Talk about it more for Lady Bird, but like when with anything in life, if you have a window in and you can relate to it, like it's gonna hit you differently. And there's so many films and TV shows now where things that didn't bother me before now bother me because there's new context to it, and that's actually quite a rewarding and nice thing a lot of the time. But saying that when we watched Adolescence, slightly terrifying. So like there we are. But yeah, Goonies, I would thoroughly recommend. First time watch, kind of semi-first time watch, bar Channel 5 airings on terrible terrestrial TV 20 plus years ago.
50th time for me.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I would say I'm always on the Corey Feldman hype in terms of the films of that era.
You do love Corey Feldman, don't you?
I just find him really funny, and I just, when you... It sounds really bad, but like kids of that era, like Ed Norton, similar story. You just look at them and you're like, you've got the world.
Ed Norton?
Sorry, not Ed Norton. Edward Furlong.
Right, I was going to say, you said that twice now, yeah. So you mean Edward Furlong?
Correction from earlier, I meant Edward Furlong, T2. Okay. Read about it. Very interesting. Yeah. But in terms of, you've got the world at your feet in terms of, like, especially, to be honest, Corey Feldman had done so many films by the time, like, by the time we got to the Lost Boys, he was
so
like
much
4 or 5
work.
deep. Like, he had so much going on.
He looks
for him.
young in this, like really young.
Yeah, he looks really young. And I just think, you know, yeah.
It's quite heartbreaking. It's quite heartbreaking.
It's
really,
really sad. But then what brings me hope is, like, it sounds like recently, like, things are good, and also, like, Kieran McCulkin, like, years later, like, he's seems to have, like, been in a happier. Sorry, yeah, Corley, not Kieran. Seems to be in a much happier space now. So, like, you know. But it does feel like this era specifically, like late
wonder...
80s, like, I feel like there was just no, like I said, I watched the interview with him and Drew Barrymore, with Corey Feldman and Drew Barrymore, and they were basically being like, yeah, there was just no guardrails, just nothing, and it was just...
It makes you sad. It does make you sad a little bit, and you kind of see the same as, like, I guess the same would be really anyone in the public eye, like, I guess sports people as well, like when you see specific sports people go off the rails. It's they've been given, you can look at it like on two sides of the coin, really. You can be like, a really cynical person would look at them and be like, well, they've had all the money in the world and the world at their feet and they've messed it up. Or you can actually have some kind of empathy and be like, yeah, like they've also had, like, they also cannot walk out of their house. Like, look at Bieber. Like, Bieber was a really good example of someone that actually had a couple of, like, dodgy things, like, happen over the years, and was, like, a mega star and managed to almost
overcome every obstacle, in terms of, he was like the first internet sensation I remember, in terms of, like,
he still is. He's a mega star.
Well, maybe I can't tell that story.
What? You can't tell
I could tell a story. I'll redact parts, but many years ago, he was supposed to be a guest on a show I was going to be working on. Okay. And literally there were people, like, he had mega fans who were so obsessed, who were literally threatening to kill themselves if they weren't selected for tickets, right? To the point where he wasn't then booked, of the fear of the legal ramifications of around it. I'll say no more. But, like, it is insane. Like, you have no concept now of, like, what it was like. It was just wild.
With One Direction and BTS actually as well, and also, by the way, I'm not just naming boy bands, and, like, that's not me doing that on purpose. It just happens to be what I know about. But the Bieber,
that's from when we were growing up, but from the time when the internet was really kicking off and social media was really kicking off, and they were like the first things.
Yeah, when Bieber was he was caught smoking marijuana, allegedly, if I've got to say that, but he was. And, like, his fans were online, like, cut for Bieber, like, and they were like hashtag cut for Bieber, and they were cutting themselves. And so imagine as, like, a young lad,
the pressure
and as well,
on yourself,
like,
to not
also,
do
like,
anything.
there was bits of, like, where, like, Bieber was, like, almost getting sexually assaulted and stuff as well, like, and it's like
on TV. There's literally videos of, like,
that's the one I'm on about.
It's really weird. But anyway, the point being, how can you grow up and have a normal childhood in that environment? And the truth is, you can't. And I think it turns so many kids, and also so many stories about, like, the parents going off there, like, different actors here, but, like, parents then trying to, like, divorce their child or vice versa because of the fact of, like,
emancipate,
because they're literally trying to steal all their money. Like, it's
heartbreaking,
nuts.
And I think.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking, and I think that's kind of the when you do look at it from that point of view, it's not always just as clean cut as you think. Like, they are human beings, and you have to have empathy. And if I know some of them have had, like, well, we talk about Corey, who's had, like, drug problems in the past and stuff. It's you just have to have some empathy, you know, like, and wonder what like he's gone through, you know, like, it's crazy and really sad. And so it's seeing these films back, like, it's even sadder seeing how incredible he is, like, you know. But as John said, last thing I heard, I've not looked lately, he's doing good, so that's really nice.
Let's end on a positive. Very good film. First time watch at 32. Would recommend. And hey, we linked it to another. We said summer vibes. I'm pretty sure this film is not set in summer, as in Goonies, because they said it was raining all the time. But anyway, it's fine.
It's Oregon. Oh, mind you, Oregon's really hot.
We linked it with Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird.
Lady Bird, is that your given name?
Yeah.
Why is it in quotes?
I gave it to myself. It's given to me by me.
Lady Bird always says that she lives on the wrong side of the tracks, but I always thought that was like a metaphor. But there are actual train tracks.
What she did was very baller. It was very anarchist.
Put the magazine back!
She has a big heart, your mom.
She's warm, but she's also kind of scary.
You can't be scary and warm.
I think you can. Your mom is.
So, John, this one was also another first-time watch for you, and I have a feeling that you liked it very much.
I did indeed, yeah. So I just said we just had an issue, but whatever. I set it up. Like going on IMDb, seeing what the recommended films were if you like this, and it's very much on my street. So the first film it reminded me of, and we've talked about this before, but Perks Being a Wallflower, which was a very early entry on the podcast, but I really, really enjoyed. Also a coming of age film, but also very melancholic, but also kind of happy. And then you've got the pathos, I suppose. But then you've also got the other recommendation was Little Miss Sunshine. But yeah, I think for me, what I liked about this film, and this might not be new criticism or critique, what I will say, this is from someone who's just watched it last night for the first time, is that I think every trope you would expect from a coming of age film is absolutely avoided. And I think that's great. And I think having seen Barbie before this, I knew there was going to be strong representation of female characters, but not just female characters, but everyone all round. And what I liked is, like, relationships are complicated, and this film depicts them in that way. So I sent Jamie a video essay I found about Lady Bird, and it basically said, like, this film is about, like, differences of, like, love and attention, right? So the film is basically, we'll get into synopsis in a second, but it's basically about a coming of age film for our central character, Lady Bird McPherson, and she essentially is in that final year deciding where to go to college, and she's just like the classic, she's finding herself, but she is finding herself, and she thinks she wants to get out of Sacramento, and she hates her hometown, which is where Greta Gerwig's from. She says it's not a retelling of her story, but
like
a biopic, but it is heavily influenced. She also went to a Catholic school, and it's about how you don't really miss home until you leave home, and kind of like the love and association of that area you don't really understand until you leave it. Forever she wanted to leave and be somewhere else, and then until she goes there she doesn't realise how much it means to her, but also how like her mother she is. So throughout the film there's kind of like they kind of don't quite get on, and they have a complicated relationship. Like my favourite sequence is when they're in they go to a store and they're dress shopping, and like she says, you know, to her daughter, "Oh, you're dragging your feet," and so are you tired? And then it's like really passive aggressive banter. But then when they see the dress, they all kind of are agreeing on the same page again. And like I've seen those relationships. Like I've got a sister, and like I've had previous like relationships and watched them with their mums and how they are, and like you see all those. I think what I'm trying to say is the subtlety and the complexity of those relationships. Like just because you love someone very much doesn't mean that you always get it right, and you might not always say the right thing, and as a parent it might be for the greater good, but it brings challenges in the day-to-day of that relationship. And like the frustration for the mum in this film is like the dad always gets to be the good guy, and like, you know. But anyway, do you want to do a little synopsis first before we go any further?
I mean, you've pretty much like given us it anyway. It's a coming of age film. We've got a girl called Christine who goes by the name Lady Bird. She gives herself that nickname, and she's in an all-girls Catholic school. Her mum wants her to go to a college that is half an hour down the road. Because of all these clashes she's having with her mum and how much she thinks she hates where she's from, and I guess to a certain extent hates herself, and not like massively, but she's very opinionated, and she's very like she's strong-willed, and it's just about kind of her heading off to college, and she secretly starts applying for Columbus and New York, which are far away from Sacramento. But then we kind of see as the story unfolds, and it's like a slice of life. I would say it's a slice of life kind of film, really, where you're just really watching her with relationships developing, and the different relationships she has with her adopted brother, with her mum, with her dad, and also the things that they're going through as well, to kind of the things that they go through and the things that they experience, and how that kind of impacts their home life. But then also her friends and stuff, and there's a little bit in there about status and about how her parents feel like they almost failing to provide to what Lady Bird wants or wants to show her friends and stuff. And then we've obviously got the other side of it where we all know when we were 17 years old, the girls that we want to start seeing, and for her, obviously the boys that she wants to start seeing, and her hobbies. We see her hobbies, and we see her hobbies change. And really, that's just all it's about. Really, it's just about her and her growing as a person, and I guess coming to terms with leaving, and also coming to terms with. It's a really beautiful ending, I think, actually, and the film like really has a lovely ending that really again brought a little. Oh, what's wrong with me, man? I'm emotionally unstable.
No, I found it quite. No, I found it quite emotional. I would say I cried it, but I think
I didn't cry. Just for the record, did not cry.
So she goes through a lot of big milestones, which we all remember from this age, and this is why the coming of age drama never gets old, because you all remember this time of life. It's very difficult. You're not quite an adult, but you've got enough responsibility to like. Yeah, it's that kind of in-between period which is very difficult, and then your true freedom comes when you do move out, when you go in America to college, in the UK to university, and it is a difficult period to navigate. And I do think probably even more so for women, because I feel like, I don't know if you felt like this, but as a guy, I feel like there's less pressure with certain things about what you should and shouldn't be doing, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but I meant more so kind of like, I think the feeling of responsibility was probably less so, put it that way. I felt more free and easy about things. I don't remember feeling particularly.
I mean, I guess at the time growing up, I didn't feel that way about it. I'll tell you one thing I was thinking of, when I was thinking about this, and obviously when I watch these films, it's kind of like, when we watch these films, that's what's on my mind all the way leading up to the pod, and I think about the film, and I think about what I'm going to say, and I think about how it relates to me, and that's generally how I like put that together. Like when I have quite long drives, and I'm like, right, well, what does that mean, and how did that make me feel, and what was I like at that age? The one thing I did kind of come to the conclusion of was that I love coming of age films, probably like that, and horror is probably my favorite genre, really, and the things that kind of evoke the most emotion in me, and that's what I look for nowadays. I just want to feel something, but I always gravitate, and my favorite ones seem to be the ones that follow girls, and from that perspective, and maybe that's because I haven't experienced it and I find it more interesting. So the ones that come to mind would be Dirty Dancing, obviously, Lady Bird, Edge of 17, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Easy, I thought, to an extent. I mean, not quite so much, but
yeah, maybe it doesn't. I wouldn't. It doesn't make me feel quite like that. But Eighth Grade was another really good one that had me like feeling differently. Ghost World as well. All those films, I guess they're the ones that kind of stick out when I think of like the ones that like really resonate with me. Although I'm a boy, or I was a boy. So I don't know why that is. I've got no idea. But I just find it quite interesting. I don't find myself having any pressure at that age per se. I felt what I did feel though at that time. When I think back to being 17, it was very exciting. It was very, very exciting. I was in a band, and when I was starting, I think I was a bit of a late starter, really, because I don't think I really kissed a girl till I was 16. And so, obviously, John, I'd imagine you were way before me. He's laughing. Yeah, he's laughing. Yeah, I think when I think maybe I was 16 when I first kissed a girl. So, I think I was quite an ugly teenager, to be perfectly honest. So I think I got a bit better looking towards the age of like 16, 17, 18. And obviously now I'm in final form. But around those ages, that's when I was kind of starting to be interested. Starting to be interested in girls, and girls seemed to be interested in me, and I found it quite an exciting time. And then I guess you start to probably drink alcohol. I don't remember thinking about pressure, really. I don't remember feeling. The only thing I tell you what. Sorry, John, because I've been talking for a while. But
sorry.
The one thing I did that I was pressured about was when we watch Lady Bird and her mum have these like crazy like rows and arguments. I don't really think I ever had that with my mum. Like we would row, but I wouldn't really want to row with her. So that was the only kind of pressure I had was from home. But that was nothing to do with my gender. That was nothing to do with being a boy.
I was going off more so. How far would we go into this? Let's say, yeah. I've seen a relationship like that where the mother was so wanted the best for, and maybe the way it came across wasn't always like, it sounds like criticism, and it's not criticism, it's wanting the best, but actually worrying about the what you'll receive back, which is like the conclusion of this film is like, look, your mother couldn't tell you how she felt about this because she was so worried about how you would judge her, because you're so, like, the film has lots of moments where it says, you know, you don't want to be judged as being the poor girl in the rich school and all this kind of thing. That's not the part I'm talking about relating to, but the kind of aspect of the relationship being mums loving them so much. Like, love is lots of different things. It's not this, like, that essay I sent you, right, was like, loves lots of different things, and like in this film, it's the mum's care and attention and time, right? But it doesn't mean they don't have conflicting opinions on a lot of things, and it doesn't mean that the mum doesn't get upset, and it doesn't mean, you know, that they always get on. Like, it's complicated, and I think what's great in this film is it showcases complicated relationships, and like, you understand them. Like, it doesn't just try and show it from the coming of age from Lady Bird's perspective. It's from the mum's perspective, and why it's difficult to let go, to like let the brood leave and all that jazz. Like, it's all sides of it. You're muted.
Sorry. I'm back. Sorry, it was because I was putting my light on because it's getting dark outside now.
It is getting dark.
The one thing, yeah, you are right. Like, it does kind of, it doesn't demonize any character really.
No.
However, I did think that the mum, through what you're saying, like through like desperately wanting the best for her, can be does snipe at her quite often, and is unnecessary in the things that she says. So, for example, like,
you find out, like, she said, you know, she complains to her mum about how she treats her, and she turns around and says, well, my mum was an abusive alcoholic. So, kind of being
so the dad loses the job.
It's a lot better than this, you know?
Yeah, the dad loses the job, and I do think that the mum targets Lady Bird and takes it out on her. And all just because she comes in the room, she's like, why are none of your clothes folded? Like, why have you not folded any of your clothes? And like, Lady Bird's like, she's actually quite like, almost, I just don't want to argue, like, because I think she'd had this, that was at the point where she finds out the boy that she was seeing gay.
Yeah, so she had a bad day. But she also says, you know, didn't you ever think about your age? Wouldn't you have liked to have not had to fold did you ever not fold your clothes by your bed for one night? Did you ever not do this?
Yeah, that was it.
And then she turns around and says, well, my mum was an abusive alcoholic, so...
And walks out, yeah. That's a really, really good scene.
Done.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite difficult, isn't it? Because Lady Bird is, again, she's another really good example of a dislikable female character, but actually, like, I think on the surface, when you actually really,
she's a bit of a badass. Like, was more of my read. I don't think she was. She's not a bad.
She does do some mean things.
She does. She does what teenagers do, which is there's a section of the film where she has a best friend who, like, she truly loves and cares about, and then she ditches her because she's trying to get in with a boy. So who's in a popular crowd, so she goes to a popular crowd. We've all seen it happen. I mean, this is where coming of age films happen. There's so many bits where you're like, yep, can remember that story, can remember this, remember that, and like, like they're sucking up to so and so because they know this, and like all those aspects you watch him play out, like, you know, and also kind of like, I thought it really captured well the disappointment of lots of different situations. So like the disappointment of like, her first like boyfriend ends up being gay, like, which is no fault of her own, but just like her expectation what that relationship would be. But even when she was with him, when they first see the band and she sees Timothy Chalamet, she knows it sparks something else, like a different interest than she's getting from this boyfriend at the time, Danny.
He's brilliant in this, by the way. Timothy Chalamet is brilliant.
And Timothy Chalamet in this, like, I can see why people used to like get annoyed with him, because it looks to me like he always played a character where he's always a bit of an arse, but like, I really like Timothy Chalamet, but I know him only from, like, it was June was my first insight into him, and then it was Wonka.
That's crazy.
So for me, I'm like, 6 silver sovereigns in my pocket. Anyway, and
you're outrageous.
He made me laugh because we all know that guy. There's someone at uni, won't name names, who I was like, absolutely that archetype of, that's your stick. Your stick is, you know, like, I just just don't really care about anything. I'm just so cool because I don't care about anything. I'm not trying to be part of the monetary system. I'm also like, I don't really make my phones like personal.
I'm just all about what's going on in Syria at the moment.
And like actually, war is the worst thing, and it's like, well, yeah, war is the worst thing, but I love the bit where she's like, the other things are sad, not just war. Like there's other bad things, but just like we all know a girl who's fallen for that guy and then immediately found out they're a complete dick, and then it's immediately immediately gone.
The Timothy Chalamet bit is brilliant.
Archetypal, just like that guy at that age, and we all knew them, and we all. It's just
he lies to her as well, though. Obviously, she's lusting over him, and she's like. Then she's like kissing him and stuff. She's like, "Oh, but I just want you to know I'm a virgin." And he's like, "Yeah, me too." And then so like she's got this idea that she's going to lose her virginity to him because he's also a virgin. And then when she does, he fully gaslights her, and he's like, "I never said that.
I never said that."
She's like, "You literally said it." Like he's like, "No, I definitely never said that because I'm not. Like I didn't say it because I'm not." Like he's really funny. Like he's great in like at being a tool. But yeah, that's the film's hilarious throughout.
And I don't want to sound stereotypical here, but the weight of expectation of an image of what prom's like from media, an image of what your first time's like from media, and basically every time it's like first time crap, prom. He says he doesn't want to go, and it's heartbreaking because he's still her date. And like they say earlier on in the film, her dad's like, "You're not going to be going to the prom with a guy you honks to say when he's got here," because it's like not.
I wrote that down, John.
Like go in the house and say hello and all those things and introduce yourself, and it's just like it sets it up perfectly. But also we're so on
the same wavelength.
We are indeed, but we haven't even mentioned like she goes to the Catholic school, and what's really interesting to me is again she tries to buck against the trend at the school, and you see her participating, but it's with reluctance. But at the end of the film, when she's realised she misses Sacramento, what's the thing that brings her back? It's the image of the church. So it's really interesting, like wherever you go, like there will be a religious building, whatever.
Brainwashed,
oh god, that's a really nice piece then, and that's what you've gone for. But like there's always that calling card and something that makes you feel close to home. But you're such a dick sometimes. Anyway, and then
I went to a Catholic school, by the way. I went to a Catholic school.
I know.
But by the way, sorry. You are right.
Being, like,
she's in the church. It's a really lovely moment.
But it's the point of being like, she rebelled against that for many years and didn't want to be there. And then what's the thing that brings her back to feeling like herself and having this revelation, going to church? And it's just like, because it's part of her routine, it's part of being at home, all those things. And it's just, it's interesting. But
Stockholm Syndrome.
Can you do me a favour? Can you say the lead actress's name so I don't mispronounce it completely?
Saoirse Ronan.
Thank you. She's fantastic. I didn't even know, because I only watched one behind the scenes interview, she was Irish until I watched her speaking to Timothy Chalamet. They had a reunion talking about this film.
You're gonna get a lot of stick for this. I'm just gonna tell you now.
Look, honesty is the best policy, and here we are. I recognise the face from The Lovely Bones, which is a film I've not seen in years, and I'm trying to remember what else I've seen that she's actually been in, but not much that I've seen.
That's crazy, by the way, because
where she was English.
Yeah, so you've watched all the... I mean, so she was the actor that was in The Outrun that I mentioned a few weeks ago about having the alcohol problem. She's in a really good film, I want to say 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, called See How They Run, which is, like, you quite like that, John. British film, a police kind of, like, not procedural, like, it's a comedy. But
she's incredible. Just, like, funny, but also, like, just every beat, don't miss it.
I'd really like you to watch Little Women.
I'm going to. I put it on the watch list today. It's on Prime for free or Netflix, one of the two. I can't remember.
Oh, Jeffrey Bezos. Do you know what's really funny? Like
Ken mentioned last week.
I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got someone mentioned. Someone messaged me over that actually. Saying that use a proper shills for Prime, and I'm like, no, the films that we were talking about were actually on Prime. That's all we were saying. Like, we weren't saying rent them. Like, they're on Prime if you have Prime.
They're also all available on Apple TV for £3.50 because that's what every film costs to rent on Apple TV. There you go.
Yeah. Little Women was that's when it came out in 2019, which is the year I went to the cinema the most. But that I went to the cinema on my own to see that Little Women, and it was bloody brilliant. I love that film so much, and again, that's another one that's just like, and the cast in Little Women is just fantastic. Like, Saoirse Ronan is the main one, but you've got Emma Watson, Florence Pugh as well, Laura Dern, Chalamet's back. Yeah, but yeah, it's just great, mate. Like, Lady Bird, I think that it's going to be one of those films. I've seen it, obviously, I've seen it before, but it's going to be one of those films that I will just revisit, like, just again and again, because it's just. It's one of those. It's a great comedy, but at the same time, one thing I really did want to mention was that the way it's shot. So it's not shot on film, but it really looks like it was shot on film.
It was shot digitally to emulate film, and they said they wanted it to look like a memory, and I think that's a great way of saying. What
so 2K, it was downgraded to 2K in order for it to look like more filmic, and I do want to just shout out to Alex Bickle, who is the colorist for this film. So she was in charge of the color grading of the film and made it look the way it looks. And I think the film is just beautiful how it looks, and it really looks. Do you know what? It gives me faith in terms of like that's how a film shot digitally can look when it's done properly.
Around that era, there's a few. So Joker's a fantastic example of a film that looks like it's shot on film, but it was shot digitally. But what they do is they shot it digitally. They used a load of filter processes in post, and then I can't remember if they did this for this one, but definitely for Dune Part 2, they shoot on film, they scan it into a computer to edit it, they re-put it back on the film, and then re-scan it to get the natural grain.
Get in there.
Get in there. Sorry. Dune was shot digitally. Let's get this right because it's important. Dune was shot digitally. They put it onto film to get the grain. Then they scan that back in, and that's what they do. They edit off to get that look. Crazy.
Yeah.
But cool.
Favourite moments of the film? Anything for you?
I did find it quite funny, the auditions for the... I've got a few.
I love an audition. I love an audition
thing, but actually, no, I was going to say when the football coach taking over the drama team and coaching them like they're NFL players was funny. Like, that was genuine laugh out loud. I also liked her line when she's when Timothée Chalamet's gaslighting her. She says something to the effect like, "What kind of girl loses her virginity on top?" And that did just tickle me.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
And then the other sequence for me is just the phone call at the end, because I don't know, like, Harry and I watched it together, which is nice. We don't watch many films together, but we actually had chance.
Did she enjoy it?
Yeah, she really enjoyed it, and I said, "Isn't it mad? Like, we'll have a teenager one day, and like these are all, potential conversations to have." And like that's why I think films like this I probably do feel differently about now. I think we joked about it before, but like I always put Euphoria this, Euphoria that. But like, what the first time I watched Euphoria is like, you see it in this way, and then since I've had a daughter, I've watched it in a very different way. And like you like your mind wanders. And like this film was a similar thing. It's like, how you can't help but put yourself in the position of, well, how would I deal with that situation, or how would I feel if like that happened to them, and like all those things. And yeah, it's difficult. But I loved this film. I think it felt authentic, felt real. It's a love letter to Sacramento or whatever it is. But I think just it felt honest, and that sounds a really pretentious thing to say, but it does feel just like throughout. It's like, and I love the fact we can still, like, we're joking about Timothée Chalamet's character, but like, we'll talk about it after, but like knowing someone who is like that, and like we all have at some stage, and just like, I just thought, it was just bang on. It's the US, not the UK, but it's all still so relatable and translatable.
It's relevant,
anyway. And relevant. How about yourself?
Yes, I mean, I love when at the beginning and they're having an argument and they're clashing, and you just kind of see the mother and daughter relationship straight away, and she jumps out of the car and breaks her arm, and then the first thing we see is her in church with a bright pink cast on that says "F you, Mom" on the cast, which I just think that's very, very funny. And to be honest, basically every scene with her dad, Larry McPherson, he's a beautiful, beautiful character and a wonderful example of a really good dad. And despite going behind the mum's back and helping her apply for...
Get his daughter into college, come on.
Yeah, but the mum didn't know, and also we see other examples, like he's been made redundant and he's depressed, and he then goes for the same job that actually his adopted son's gone for, and they meet on the stairs, and he says like, good luck, like
there's no ill will.
Like it's just a beautiful, like, really, that's how to be, you know, that's how to live your life. But I love him. He's just fantastic. And yeah, those bits, and I guess the scene with Timothée Chalamet is very funny as well. But yeah, those bits with the family are just really nice. Yeah, good film. It's really, really, like, yeah, it's a cult classic at the moment. Like it's getting there, and it's gonna be there for a while. So
if you like Perks of Being a Wallflower, you'll love this.
Yeah, love it.
Cool.
Right, we've got another question to go with.
Let's do
before we leave. So, Film Forager writes in, and it won't let me scroll. Hold on 2 seconds. Can you read it, John?
Did you send it me on email? If so, yes.
Here we go. I've got it. Film Forager says, "Can you discuss a few classic movies that you should like but don't?"
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get hate for this. Yeah.
So am I. Don't worry. So am I. I've got a couple of real.
Let's go one by one. What's your first one? You'd say.
I'm gonna come out of the gates hot, and I'm gonna say Seven Samurai, which is like,
I've not seen it, so I can't judge.
So Seven Samurai, obviously, it's like 3 hours long, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't where I was. I don't know. I just find it quite plodding and just like boring, like terrible. I mean, I'm up for watching it again, but yeah, that's mine. That's one of mine. I really, it's not for me.
I was going to say, and this is really controversial, Wizard of Oz. I find it, yeah, as
brutal.
Technical aspects of it, fantastic, and can buy into. But in terms of like actual enjoyment and rewatching it, it's just one of those films that just never like does it for me. Like, I think I just find it quite creepy and weird, to be completely honest. And it's one of those films that I know why it's good. Do you know? You ever have that? You know why it's appreciated, but it's just not for you. And like that for me is one of those films that was, when that question came in, it was the first one I was like,
that's brutal, isn't it?
But anyway, go
on. I mean, the Edgar Allan Poe films. Well, not the ones written by him, directed by Roger Corman. The Pit and the Pendulum, and what's the other one that I don't really like? It's very The Pit and the Pendulum, and the other one was blah blah blah, House of Usher. Yeah, they're just, I just think they're so 6 out of 10. Like it's unreal. And then I've got one more, but so yeah, go John.
I'm trying to think of what else I've got. Wizard of Oz was the one that came to mind because it's quite vehement.
So the only other one that comes to mind, which usually I should like it, but I just don't, is Touch of Evil, which is Orson Welles, I believe. Off the top of my head, I can't find it here, but Touch of Evil, Orson Welles. I don't know what it is. Like there's lots of different versions. So I've watched the version that's supposed to be the best, like the director's cut, like reassembled version or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me really, and that's it really. But
what was the one we watched when it's the one in Venice, where Venice is the character and it's Donald Sutherland and the...
Oh, Don't Look Now.
Like, that film, well, I can't say it's a classic I didn't like, it just weirded me out. That stuck with me, that has. I'm still thinking about the ending of that film. But that's not really the question. But in terms of, like, the thing is... what are the classic films I should like? I don't really know.
It's a really good question, Chandra.
I think you won't like 2001, and I think that will be a sad day. I'm not convinced you'll love it. I think you're going to say it's plodding.
Right. Okay.
I know. I have a feeling that we'll watch it and you'll be like, it's too plodding.
And the Long Good Friday. Yeah, the Long Good Friday. I didn't absolutely love that. I think I do have quite a high tolerance for older films in general. Like I can put myself.
There's certain things with pacing that you take offence to quite quickly. Like you said that to me before. Not
the only other one I'll mention is Charles Bronson, Death Wish, like the original Death Wish. I find that like it's literally Charles Bronson running around shooting people for the entire film, but it's like and he's got the biggest ties I've ever seen. Like, you know, like a massive tie, like a tie that you would wear with a suit, like the biggest ones I've ever seen. It's just like, it's not the third one's the one where it goes really batshit crazy. That's pretty good. But yeah, anyway,
cool. Right then, I think that's us, and I think.
Well, before we go though,
go on.
Well, we've got to just clean up, and we've got to say stuff like, find us on Spotify, rate us 5 stars. We only accept 5 stars. Otherwise, like, we'll be very, very upset. You can also, John's wearing a lovely T-shirt there that looks, actually, is that brand new, by the way?
No.
Well, it looks brand new to me. It must be that pre-shrunk cotton. You can go moviesinapodshell.sumupstore.com and go and buy yourself a T-shirt for the mere £18. Although it is past April the 1st, our prices have stayed the same, you know. The prices stay the same. They're £18. The only thing that might go up is like a little bit of shipping, but I don't think it will. We've got a brand new T-shirt as well, which is the Rewind or Die T-shirt.
Yes.
So if you love physical media, have a look at that. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, really. You can find us on YouTube when it's my edit week. When it's John's, like, you might not. He's too busy editing the Birmingham Panthers to do anything to do with the pod, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah, so no, it's fine, mate. It's your career at the end of the day. So find us there, and you can find us on YouTube. You can search all one word, Movies in a Pod Shell, all one word, Tony. Otherwise, some other stuff will come up probably. But John, you had something to say before we leave.
Well, I was going to say, I'm guessing we'll be talking about Warzone next, and some of the bits and pieces.
We're talking about Warfare though.
Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone. Sorry, guys.
Let's
talk about that. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be talking about Warfare next, and we'll hopefully pair that with something. Well, we'll see. I guess
not so war-y.
Yeah, not so war-y. Just to you'll be all warred out, won't you? Anyway, What are you doing tonight, John?
I'm off. You're off to watch Liverpool Everton, aren't you?
I'm going to watch the Merseyside derby. Yes.
I'm off to water the garden.
Are you actually?
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Enjoy that. Water in the garden, yeah, bro. Lovely. Well, John's going to go and water his garden. I'm going to watch sports. We hope you love the pod, as always, and thank you to the listeners that wrote in. We really appreciate it. Any feedback, just, write into moviesinapodshell at wedon'tcare.com, and we'll get right on that. Anyway, say bye, John.
Bye.
See ya!